Pete'sTools.com.
Hey guys, I brought this 3-in-1 welder the other month, and I just want to show you how easy it is to set up a gasless MiG welder for the first time. I know a lot of you guys are new to welding, especially gasless wire welding, and you might be a bit afraid that if you don't know anything about it, it might take a bit to set up the machines. Trust me guys, it doesn't. We'll have a quick run through of this machine, see how quick and easy it is to set it up, and I'll have you gasless MiG welding in no time guys. Same as usual, you like my videos, subscribe, drop me a like, drop me a comment, come say good day in the comments below. Let's get into this. Yeehaw! Now this machine here guys, it's a 3-in-1 machine, meaning that we can do 3 different welding applications with it. We can do MiG, either with gasless wire or solid core wire. We can do arc, like with a welding rod. And we can do lift TIG, like for welding stainless steel and that sort of stuff guys. But what I'll show you today guys, is how to set up the gasless MiG side of this machine. It's really easy guys. You can have you up and welding in no time, eh? Now what I like about these machines guys, if you're just new to welding, the simplicity of the thing is really great. Like I say, you get 3 different welding options with it, but I just like MiG welding. I like gasless MiG welding now. When I first started, I started with solid core wire and I was using CO2 as the shielding gas. Now I've progressed a little bit, I've actually gone to flux core because it's a whole lot more useful. You can weld outside, you can do all sorts of good stuff with it, and you don't have to drag around a big gas bottle with you as well. And these things are so easy to set up guys, it's like falling off a log. Now if we have a look in here guys, we've just got the spool where the wire goes on, we've got the drive rollers, and if we look up here, on most of these little welders, on the inside panel like this, it tells you all the basics to get started. Like for argument's sake, if you want to use solid core wire, it tells you what sort of shielding gas, like you could use CO2, between 8 and 12 litres a minute, and the wire diameter is 0.8 millimeters. It tells you all this stuff here. So if you want to use flux core, you use a V-groove roller, which is the roller here. The polarity is DCEN. The polarity is really easy to set up. I'll show you on the front of the machine in a minute. Once again, we've got the same thickness wire, and it tells you along here how thick a steel you can weld. It just gives you a real basic understanding of the machine straight off the bat. So if you run into trouble, you don't know how to set it up, you can just look at these settings here and go to the front and dial it up on the front, and away you go. Yeah. Now if we have a look up here a bit closer guys, it even tells you how to set up the wire feed. Once again guys, step 1, step 2, step 3. So if you run into trouble, there's always something stuck on your machine to help you out of a bind, if you know what I mean. But anyway, we're going to set this up anyway. I'll show you how easy it is guys. So when you buy one of these gasless machines guys, they're all much of a muchness. They're all set up almost exactly the same. You might have just a little different way of controlling it here, but all in all it's exactly the same, and it's really easy to do. So get your roll of flux core wire here. Now this flux core wire guys, why it's called flux core obviously is because it's got flux in the core of it, and it's quite soft compared to solid core wire. So when you're setting it up, just don't bend it backwards and forwards too many times because it's likely to snap off. So what you want to do, undo the wire holder here guys. Now that's all going to have some sort of break on them. If you look at this one here, you see we've got a washer, we've got a spring, and then we've got a plate that holds the coil of wire onto the machine. So we have to put that back exactly the same way as we took it off. Now you got your coil of wire here guys. Now I've been using this on another machine. It's just as good we can use it on this one. When you pull the wire out for the first time, make sure you hold your finger here on the bottom of the coil. Otherwise, if you don't have a finger on the bottom, it'll go and you lose half your coil of wire because it's wound on there quite tight and it acts as a spring as soon as you release it. And another thing to remember guys, always have your wire coming from the bottom. Have it trailing from the bottom of your coil instead of going over the top, because if you go over the top it's likely to jerk, but if you come from the bottom it normally runs quite smoothly. So put your coil on here like so. Once again, hold your finger on the bottom of the wire like so. Now remember, when I pull this off, we've got our plastic brake disc here that goes on like so, like that. We've got a spring that goes on top of that like so. We've got a washer that goes on top of that. All that does guys is it just pushes weight on the roll of wire to slow it down when it's going through the gun, so you've got tension on it so you can control your wire speed. Now last but not least, put your wing nut on. Now the tighter you tighten this wing nut, the more pressure it's going to put on this roll of wire. So what we want to do to start off with is tighten it right up so the roll of wire doesn't move when I let it go. So let's have a go. See that? It stays perfectly still, which is what we want. Now what you want to do guys, while you're still holding the wire, is make sure you just cut a clean end on it. It just saves any hassles when it's going through the liner. Because this wire has to travel all the way through this liner here and come out the torch end here. So what we want to do is have a clean cut so it doesn't get a chance to bind up on anything. Because that's the main trouble you're going to have when you're gasless welding. Is because the wire is so soft, it starts to bird's nest and it'll jam up on all sorts of things. So what we need to do now is just loosen this off a little bit, this brake, just until we can just move it like so. This is the top of your roller mechanism here, so we want to push that down, lift that up like so. Now we've got a V roller on the bottom here, guys, and a normal ball bearing on the top. Let me see if I can show you. Now we have the top roller here, guys, as you can see, and we have the V roller down here. You see that's got one V in it, two V's in it. Now what happens when this bottom drive roller wears out, you can actually just undo it like so, like that, take it out and turn it over, and then you can use the good side here that's not worn out. So that's pretty cool, eh? Here, I'll show you this V roller, guys, and you'll know exactly what I mean. See that, guys? Roller with two V's in it. Now for a different size wire, you're going to need a different size V, but it tells you what size wire you can run on your machine straight off the bat. So this is 0.8 millimeters, so these V's will be 0.8 millimeters. Alright guys, so we've cut our wire off straight, remember? Now we've loosened this off just so it just spins and no more. It's still got tension on it. As you can see, I'm pulling it through now. But just remember, guys, what I said, that if you have this too loose, it'll go and it'll all fly out, and then you'll be cursing me. So what we're going to do is push that through there. Now can you see this coming into the first V here, guys? So we need to push it past that. And then push it into the liner. You'll see the start of the liner is just here. So if we just push it into the start of the liner. It's quite easy to do, guys. It's just awkward me doing it on camera for you. There we go. We're in like that. There we go, guys. We'll have another closer look at that. As you can see, guys, we've got the wire on the wire roller there. Beautiful. It's just sitting in the roller like so. Now what we need to do, guys, is just snap this down like so. And then pull the lever on the top, and that's got that in there nice and snugly now, and it can't start to wind by itself. So what we'll do shortly is we'll adjust this when we have it running through the gun, when we start welding for the first time, and you can see how easy it is to weld with one of these machines, guys. So what we'll do now, guys, is just turn them on, wait for it to settle down a little bit. There we go. Now we'll make sure that we've got it on MiG. We have it on MiG. MiG is the top one, then we've got arc, and then we've got lift TIG. So we want it on MiG. So what we want to do now, guys, is just pull the trigger on the MiG torch, and you watch what happens back here. Here we go, we're starting to drive. Can you hear it? I think we've got a little bit too much tension on there. You can hear the motor just whining a little bit. So if we just loosen off a little bit of tension, but not too much at a time, guys. Because remember what I said, it'll go whoa and just untangle. Let's have another go. It's a bit better, guys. Here we go. Just a bit too much. See the wire's just starting to pick up. Too much again. We're not slipping. We're driving the wire through all the time. I can feel it coming through my gun. Now we'll see if it'll, sometimes it jams here. See that, guys? It's come to here, like you can't see it at the moment. If I pull the trigger, can you hear it? But it's not turning that anymore. And this is because of this, guys. If we take the shield off, and then we take the contact tip out, you should be able to see the wire. There we go, see that, guys? there's the wire. Now what happens when you're running a new wire through, sometimes it'll just catch on the contact tip, so you just better to take that out before you start to make a big bird's nest. So all we do then is just slide the contact tip over the wire, screw it back in like so, and then put your nozzle on. Actually guys, I'll show you a little trick about these nozzles when we start welding. Here we go guys, pull the trigger again, and look at that. Wire coming out of the end of the torch. So far so good. What I'll do guys is I'll show you how to set the proper tension on your wire rollers so you avoid a whole lot of tangled ups when you're welding. It's quite simple to do guys. First thing you got to do though, you got your machine turned on like this, you've got an earth clamp there. Make sure your earth clamp is not on your table, especially if it's metal. So I'll put my earth clamp up there. So basically what I want to do is have the machine thinking that it's going to weld, but I don't want it actually welding. Then if you get the top of your table, I've got a metal table, and you point your torch on the table like so, on about an angle like that. The object of the exercise is that the wire will come down, it'll hit the table, it'll curl up, and it'll keep curling like a spring. But if it does that and it goes into a different direction, then you've got too much tension on your wire. So let's have a look. See, that's not really doing much, is it guys? See, it's sort of going all over the place. So what we'll do is we'll just put a bit more tension on here. And what that does is just has a bigger grip on the wire. So we'll cut this off. Now we'll try that again. See that guys, we're starting to go round and round now into a spring. So what it's doing is it's putting enough tension on the wire when we hit the weld that it can keep the wire running, but it hasn't got too much that if we hit something really bad that it'll cause the wire to bird's nest. So now we've got the tension all sorted out guys, what we'll do is we'll close the lid, bring them round to the front, and let's do some welding, eh? So before we try welding guys, if you notice on the front of this machine we've got 3 plugs here. Now the bottom plug here is basically the electrode, so that's the wire coming out of the torch here. The second one here is where I got the earth plugged in. Now the only reason I've got the earth plugged into this one is because we're using flux core wire. If we're going to use flux core wire, we need the earth clamp to be positive, and we need the electrode here to be negative. Well, now that sounds very complicated, but it's really, really easy. And they make it really easy because of these plugs here. So it says up here, if you don't know if you can see that or not, it says gasless flux wire. So if you're using gasless flux wire, you can see this one here is connected to the torch, right? So if we're using gasless wire, then we plug it into the one that says gasless wire, like so. If we're using solid core wire, then we take the earth out of this one, and then we plug it into this one here that says gas or solid core wire. See that there? So that's positive and negative. So if we were using solid core, we would plug it into here, and our earth would go to the negative like so. But because we're using gasless wire, we're using flux core wire, it tells us to plug it into here. So we plug it into here, and then we plug the earth into the other one that we've got left. Easy peasy lemon squeezy guys, it's so easy. And if you don't have the plugs on the front of your machine, if you look on the side of the machine, there'll be some connectors there that you can just swap them around. Piece of cake guys, and they do that for the simple reason that sometimes you might want to run gas on this machine. You might want to use solid core wire instead of flux core all the time. But some of the welders you buy only have the option for flux core, so you won't have to worry about this. But this is a 3-in-1 machine, so they just give you all the options. It's quite awesome, I reckon. Right, let's see if we can weld, eh? Another thing before we start welding guys, as you see here, I've got this machine here set to MiG. I've got this set to 2T. 2T means that if you pull the button on your gun and you let it go, it stops welding. If I was to put that onto 4T and then I pull the button on the gun, it'll keep going until I pull the button on the gun again, if you understand what I mean. Here, I'll show you. So at the moment we're on 2T, right? So if I push the button, stop. So now if we go down to 4T, look what happens. Keep going, keep going, keep going, until I push the button again and it stops. It's just if you're doing really, really long runs, it saves you holding the button in all the time. So we'll set that back up to 2T. Now with this, guys, we've got controls here for the amperage, the current, and we've got the wire speed here. And the wire speed obviously is what it is. It's the speed of the wire coming out of your torch. So what you got to do basically is balance the speed of the wire coming out of your torch to the amps that you've got that can burn the wire up as quick as you need it, if you know what I'm saying. But this machine here, and a lot of them have it these days, they're really good, these modern machines, is it has here and it says what thickness wire you're using. And if you notice when I change these, it changes the settings automatically, so you don't have to muck around with this. So if you're just starting to learn to weld, you're just clicking on whatever wire you're using, and chances are it's pretty close to the settings that you need. So if we have a look here, we go to 0.35, you see the numbers change here. The voltage is 22.1 at 163. Go down to 0.30 wire, we're down to 19.7 at 114. Or we go back up to 0.3, 90 and 18.8 volt. So it's pretty cool, guys. So all I'm going to do is just set it on the automatic settings like this. So I think we're running at about 0.35 wire. It's already set it up. Let's see what we can do. Remember I said, guys, I'll give you a tip. Take the shield off, guys. You don't need it. And you don't need it because we're using flux core wire. So we don't have to have a shielding gas shielded in this nozzle. This is called a shielding nozzle. So if we're not using shielding gas, we don't need the shielding nozzle. And the advantage of that, guys, is you can see your wire through your welding helmet. And you can actually see where you're welding, because when you first start welding, the problem is that you can't see where you're welding. Well, that's what I found anyway. So we'll stick them over there. We've got our machine set basically to automatic. And by the way, guys, this machine only costs about $220. But like I said, there's a heap and heaps of them. All got the same sort of technology these days. Really, really good if you want to start to learn to weld. And the advantage of a 3-in-1 machine, of course, is you got 3 different welding options for the same money. Anyway, stop waffling, Pete, and let's try and do some welding, eh? Right, guys, I've got a bit of 5mm plate here. Let's see if we can weld it together, eh? Here we go, guys. Yeehaw! Let's have a look at that, guys. That was with the machine's own settings. Not too bad for first attempt. So with flux core, guys, we have to belt the slag off it because we're not using a shielding gas. Clean it up with a wire brush. You can see there, guys, where I just started, and then as we're coming along it's getting better and better and better as I'm getting used to holding the torch, and then we're just finished here. So that was with the machine's automatic settings, guys, so I reckon that's pretty awesome. And you guys should be able to do that with the first or second attempt. Pretty cool, eh? So guys, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I think it is anyway. So that's how easy it is to set up the old gasless welder for the first time. Piece of cake, guys. If I can do it, anyone can do it, eh? Anyway, guys, same as usual, you like my videos, subscribe, drop me a like, drop me a comment, come say good day in the comments below, and we'll see you next time, eh? Bye.
Pete'sTools.com